Press Freedom Index by HRNJ. My name is James Nkubi. I'll be the chief marksman for this function for the next 2 hours. Please note that my name is James, Nonti Jemusi. Just to be clear on that. We want to welcome you again. We want to spend here less than, if possible, less than 2 hours. Of course, we have lost, not lost. It was willed that we may begin latish because of the rain. We shall, as per our program, shall have very, very quick introductions of ourselves, and then immediately we shall go into the main business of the day. Again, this is the 16th Press Freedom Index report, which is trends and patterns of press freedom in the country. Homegrown, authentic homegrown tools, which makes this piece of work, I think, outstanding. I'm speaking not as an MC, but I've also got an opportunity in the past to be part of conceptualization of the same. We are glad that HRNJ continues to push this agenda yonder than solve. So I want to, again, welcome you. We have quite a number of you here with us from different media houses, different entities of power. We are also joined by different embassies, as we shall see. Some of our donors are here. Some of the people we look up to in the sector are also here with us, as we shall be seeing. We have comrades from CBS, comrades from Galaxy, and then comrades from Sunrise newspaper. That was a very interesting paper. We shall be hearing from you. Baba, NTV is also here. And then, of course, Uganda Radio Network, of course, that revolutionized news gathering is also here. We are also privileged to have the guild, the Editors Guild. We also welcome you here. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. So I'm going to ask that we just do a quick introduction, your name, very quickly, and your affiliation, and then we can move to the next action. So I'll begin from this side quickly, and then we roll.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Morning.
My name is Deo Warusimbi. I work with HRNJ-Uganda.
You're welcome.
Good morning, members.
Morning, sir.
My name is Juma Kakuma, working for Metro FM and Trusted News.
Thank you.
Good morning, members.
Good morning,
I'm Sir Richard Mark, a news correspondent of 106.7 Mbona FM Itiana.
You're welcome, sir. Mbona FM. Great.
Good morning, colleagues.
Morning.
I'm Beatrice Onzuma, working for UBC West 9.
You're welcome, Beatrice.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sandra Birunji. I work with Prime Radio.
You're welcome, Sandy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Barbara Nyait, a news reporter with Nation Media Group. I write for Daily Monitor and KFM.
You're welcome.
Hello and good morning. Hussein Musi, I work with Storm 24/7.
You work with, sorry?
Storm 24/7. It's an online news website.
Okay, you're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Jeannie Namuga from Development Law Group.
You're welcome, Jean.
Good morning, everyone. Daisy Kwarisima from Development Law Group.
You're welcome, Daisy. You will skip this one. Let me begin with Robert there.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Robert Chirenga from the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders Uganda.
Thank you, Robert.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Denise Namale. I'm from the Uganda Sports Press Association.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Natfi Margaret from Uganda Media Women's Association.
Thank you for coming.
Good morning, everyone. I am called Watango Jenny. I am a board member Uganda Network for Journalists, and I also write for Radio Paida in Zombo.
Welcome, Jenny.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wasra John Baptist. I'm a media trainer.
You're welcome, Prof.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Julius Isegu. I'm the chairperson, executive board for Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda. Thank you.
You're welcome, Chair.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Priska Casimiro from Defend Defenders.
Casey, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you all. My name is Judith Fatim. I'm the head of programs at the Center for Constitutional Governance. Glad to be here.
You're welcome, Judy.
Charles Katamba is my name. I'm from Gugude TV.
Gugude TV. You're welcome.
Chamba de Joshua, Kingdom TV.
Kingdom TV. Which kingdom? Kingdom of the Lord?
KTV.
KTV.
Good morning, members. I'm Dennis Carter. I work with Beg Media.
Beg Media. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm called Peace Vasemera. I work with UBC Radio.
You're welcome, Peace.
Praise God. Praise God. I'm Jemba Ketra. I report for Top Media Group.
Good morning. Isaac Tenywa from Baba TV.
My name is Mboa Nathan. I work with Star FM.
Good morning, Kateman Senior, Sun FM.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shafiq Ziwa. I represent the African Center for Women in Journalism.
Thank you so much. My name is Solomon Lubambla. I work with Power FM, but I also represent the Sunrise newspaper.
You're welcome, sir.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fifi Namata from BBS Telefina.
Good morning. I am Edward Semambo from Human Rights Awareness and Promotion Forum. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Good morning. Chiengo David, CBS Radio.
Good morning. I'm Amel, French Embassy.
You're welcome, Amel.
Good morning. My name is John. Work with Media Focus on Africa, and I'm also representing the Media Sector Working Group.
Morning. My name is Sylvia Nancha. I work with Uganda Radio Network as the editor-in-chief, and I represent the Uganda Editors Guild, where I'm the secretary.
You're welcome.
Hello, Samuel Guma, Uganda Radio Network.
Thank you very much, and of course yourself carrying the mic.
I'm Ronald. I work with HRNJ.
Thank you very much, Ronald. I'm going to humbly request those of you at the back, I think JB, kindly come and occupy these seats, please. Ketra's table, praise the Lord, Ketra. And you know that there's a reward for the obedient, as the Bible says. So if you would kindly come and sit near us here, such that we have these pieces full, please. Defenders, Center for Constitutional Governance, Julie, kind of just come and occupy this. Google Day, KTV, come closer. Yes. Okay, so thank you very much. Again, I want to welcome you very much. Of course, I reserve the power to introduce this table partly because the people who are on it are personal to me, in particular those we look up to in this sector. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, the chair of the board, Comrade Julius, who has flown in straight from the east. If I stop there, people may think the east of Iran, Iraq, the east of Soroti, to be with us. You're welcome, Julius, who has been leading HRNJ for quite some time. And then, of course, Comrade Gilbert Sendugwa from AFIC, who has also been closely working with HRNJ, particularly pushing access to information in this country. Then we are also joined by Miss Margaret Sekaja, who is no stranger for all of us here. Madam Sekaja, you are welcome. Currently the Executive Director of Human Rights Center, but also one of the prolific chairpersons we have had of the Uganda Human Rights Commission. Went on to serve at the African Commission. Went on to serve at the regional and international mechanisms of human rights, and continues to mentor so many of us in the sector here. You're welcome, Madam Sekaja, and we appreciate. We're also joined by the Netherlands Embassy, in particular joined by Indy Thankson. Have I said it right? Wow, that's wonderful. You're welcome for gracing us with your presence. I also want to appreciate Mr. Mpamizo Malcolm, who has also been with HRNJ step by step in its growth, in particular supporting some of this work, currently working with Civisos. And then, of course, the latest entry will be introduced by the Executive Director of HRNJ. He's worthy of doing that, and I reserve that moment for when the time cometh. Right now, I want to call upon the board chair of HRNJ to come and officially host us on this function today morning for a couple of minutes. You're welcome, Julius.
I think this is a big one, quite. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This man has already introduced me in a way, and he says that I flew in all the way from the eastern part of the country, and that is Soroti. I'm glad to be here, and I want to take this singular honor to welcome all of you to this 16th edition launch of the Press Freedom Index report. My name is Julius Esegu, as mentioned. I am the chairperson, Executive Board of Directors for Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda, a position that I've held for quite some time. But most importantly is what brings us here today. And I think we are all here in one accord. James, thank you very much. So, Your Excellencies, the ambassadors and the members of the diplomatic corps, our esteemed development partners, distinguished government officials who are present here, colleagues from the civil society, esteemed stakeholders who are present here, fellow advocates for press freedom, our dear journalists, the foot soldiers. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Executive Board of Directors, the management and staff of Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda, I welcome you to the launch of the 16th edition of the Press Freedom Index report for the year 2024. The successful compilation and publication of this 16th edition of the index would not have been possible without the collective efforts, dedication, and support of a wide range of stakeholders who have continued to stand firmly in defense of media freedoms in Uganda. Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda
extends its deepest appreciation to the Board of Directors for their steadfast guidance and oversight throughout this process. Your strategic direction and leadership continue to shape our work and inspire our mission. To our committed staff, your tireless efforts in investigating and documenting cases of press freedom is deeply appreciated. Your unwavering dedication, professionalism, and resilience in the face of complex challenges have been instrumental in bringing this important work to life. We are equally grateful to our contributors and researchers, such as Ngabirano Law Associate and advocates, for their thoughtful analysis, meticulous documentation, and attention to detail throughout the development of this report. A special thank you goes to our development partners, the Royal Danish Embassy, the Embassy of the Netherlands in Uganda, the Embassy of Sweden in Uganda, and the Embassy of Ireland in Uganda for supporting the development and publication of this report under the PACER program. We would also like to appreciate our partners, including UNESCO, Open Society Foundation, IFEX, Open Technology Fund, Embassy of France in Uganda, and others for unwavering moral and financial support towards this report. Your investment in the protection and promotion of press freedom is not only appreciated, but essential to sustaining our work. We also wish to deeply thank the journalists and media practitioners across the country whose courage, voices, and lived experiences are at the heart of this report. Your stories, despite the threats and hardships, continue to illuminate the state of press freedom in Uganda and give this report or index its purpose. Our sincere appreciation goes to the media houses that opened the doors for collaboration and provided critical insights and support. Your partnership enriches this work and reinforces the collective responsibility to safeguard journalistic independence in this country. Lastly, but not least, we recognize all the individuals and institutions who directly or indirectly contributed to the success of this publication. Your belief in the importance of a free and independent media continues to drive this forward. Together, through collaboration, commitment, and courage, we have once again produced a production or a publication that not only reflects the state of press freedom in Uganda, but also serves as a tool for advocacy, accountability, and change. We thank you all for being part of this journey. This 16th edition of the Index stands as a reflection of the unwavering dedication of the Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda and its partners to defending and advancing media rights in the country. Year after year, this report has served as a vital tool in assessing the evolving landscape of press freedom in Uganda, highlighting key milestones, exposing violations, and informing collective action. In 2024, press freedom in Uganda continued to face profound instability. Despite moments of progress, most notably a significant court ruling affirming the constitutional rights of journalists, the year was largely overshadowed by a troubling escalation of abuses. These gains, instead of signaling a shift towards greater protection, exposed the entrenched efforts by both state and non-state actors to suppress independent journalism. Journalists across the country endured a host of violations, from physical assault and threats to economic pressures and increased censorship. The involvement of powerful institutions such as Parliament, the judiciary, and regulatory authorities in blocking access to information added a deeply concerning layer to this crisis. These actors, rather than upholding media freedom, became active participants in its erosion. Emerging threats further compounded this fragile environment. Cybersecurity breaches, disinformation campaigns, and the misuse of artificial intelligence raise new alarms about the safety and ethical integrity of journalism in this country. Female journalists, in particular, were disproportionately targeted, facing gender-specific abuses that limited their participation in the media space. As Uganda moves closer to another election cycle, the urgency to safeguard press freedom becomes even more critical. Electoral periods have historically been marred by increased violence and restrictions against journalists, and the current climate suggests that 2025 could follow a similar pattern. Meanwhile, the growing influence of digital platforms continues to shape the media landscape, amplifying both opportunities for civic engagement and avenues for repression. This report offers more than just a review of the challenges faced by the press in 2024. It is a rallying cry. It calls on the government institutions, civil society organizations, media organizations, development partners, and the Ugandan public to renew their commitment to protecting media freedoms. A strong, independent press is essential to transparency, accountability, and the protection of human rights. Let us stand united in defending the rights of journalists and ensuring that the press remains a cornerstone of Uganda's democratic journey. I want once again to singularly thank you for turning up and for being part of this launch. Thank you for gracing this occasion for God and my country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julius. I want to give you an opportunity to plan your day. So we want to be out of here at around 20 minutes past 11. So plan your day accordingly. Those who had said the day is going to end at 1 and you're not going back to office, please go back after, because it will still be morning. I want to now thank you very much for painting a clear picture of what probably we're also seeing unfolding. Of course, we are having this launch on the heels of a very tumultuous past 3 months, as we have all seen. Many times when we do launch such reports, people ask to what end will these reports be. I come from a litigation background. I work with Network for Public Interest Lawyers. And we are using some of these reports. We are citing some of these reports in our quests for justice in this country. Some of these reports, again, I have an academic background. We are using them in schools of law to teach about some of these things that are happening. But also, beyond that, we think that some of these things happening in this country must be told for the future, must be told for those going to come after us to desist from some of the documented. But also, this is how a state is shaped. State growth is shaped when some people stand up and say these things are wrong and we want them documented such that we have a departure from them. So that's the essence of these indexes, and they have become part of our country's story in telling the evolution of media freedom in this country, because it keeps evolving every day. As a country is transitioning, so is a space transitioning. Someone must tell that story to inform decisions. So we want to appreciate HRNJ purposely for doing this. We have also been joined by Mr. Seru Chacha, Edward Church. I've seen him somewhere, Church. You're welcome, Church. Church is the technical advisor to GIZ governance and accountability. You're welcome. He's also an apprentice of Robert Chirenga. That's why I think Robert clapped. He anointed him and sent him to the world. He said, you go, go to the world and redeem it. And here we are in the same space. So you are welcome, and all other colleagues who have joined us. I want to welcome Comrade Robert Sempala at this moment. Actually, I battled on whether to release you to go for break tea. And since I want to release you earlier, I was going to skip that. But can I give you 10 minutes to pick a tea and come? Working tea? 10 minutes. 10 minutes not to drink, to pick. 10 minutes to pick, you come, as you take your sip, Robert takes us through a snippet of this report. Of course, you know that we are launching this price index at the heels again of World Press Freedom Day, but we are going to have a big discussion of the same report next week. So we wanted to launch it to coincide with our quest of international recognition, and then we have a debate next week on Tuesday. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to go, pick and come. Go, pick and come, and then Robert can take us through, and then we can conclude the day. So when I say I've released you, I mean like stand, like go and pick and come. That's what I mean. Yeah.
nursery primary school Jagali wali abasomesa nga bemulugunya dalekita waabwe oluvannyuma okumala ebbanga eddene nga tebasasula omukulu w'essomero yatugula essimu n'atusaba okusisinkana kimu ensonga era netusisinkana nga yeegatibwako n'abasomesa abalala okulabika nga bakkaliriza ensonga baatuyitiramu ebizibu byabwe omwali obutabasasula omwali okubayisa obubi n'okubasindiikiriza ng'ebyokutali ng'agamba nti yabakuliwa yagala kuteekawo yunivasite so nga tebaliko mubangi bwe twabajjako interview twasaba tusinkane director w'essomero okulabika nga bakukyayagaza nga bwomanyi nti mu mawulire ffe twetaaga NCW bwe bavunaana n'avunaana so twasaba okufuna obuddamu kuba kukyatangaza kyebiyitibwawo ekyennaku nga tukulembeddwamu abasomesa twayingira ku ssomero era twalitekulawo olwokuba nti munamawulire yenna sikirite yesooka ng'agenze ku ssiini ebeera kamera twalina kamera nte omukulu bwe yatulaba yatulumba kumamereka bonaaye n'atukwesa n'asaba n'abaana abali mu kusomero abwegati okulabika nga gabo kimanyi kifanamawulire omene kwaffe okula tukimanyi tetukola tetwamugiza era n'akakubanzenaalita ey'omumaaso tetwayisibwaku mu mbeera eyo netwekubira emutwe wa polisi netweyambirwa n'ayungula polisi yekomune najja obaoliawo okuseera naye kyennaku omukulu yamanya nti aziza omusango nadduka mangualikamayiootiya so natukulako omusango netuuka okulawo omusango nga naye yafuukola omusango amubeera ekitongole ekirwanira eddembe lyabamawulire human rights generalistsembayo sakonaaatutin twafuna amasimu okuba gye bali kulabika nga tufuna obuyambi kubanga twali mubeera munane okuba mumonna nasangibwasangibwa nange ebino nga livamu omusayi mungi batufunira okujanjabi batwala mawalire ag'enjawulo tebakomaawo balwana nnyo okulabika nga atlist tufuna obwenkanya namawulire afuna obwenkanya batufundira balungi okulabika nga batuyambako mu mbeera eyo era dalekitawo essomero eyo nabanga atiba mu kooti naye nga zibadde nga bisatu kutalika mu kooti so mu kiseera ekyo nebaza ekitongole ekyasukiramu okulabika nga munnamawulire atuusa eddembe teririnyirwa omulimu gw'amawulire si musango omulimu gwonna ate nga mugembedwa ngaeggwanga liriyo okuba amawulire kubanga without media terikiyinza genda maaso so mu kiseera kino nkoowola gyomulanga gyemukaabantu mwena munnamawulire wabazze mu kitundu olaba nga alina wasomesa mulinde muge omukunaali mu mateeka nomutuusaako olaba nga alina watambudde awatali mubeera mulinde mugende mu kooti abeeri amateeka gatwala mulaikenga mukolaki otwalayo kolomukunya kisa sikolesa maanyi babekanga ate omutuusaako obulabe kubanga fe tulina kyetulina tujja kusinga tulina kyetulina kamera kyokubanisa tudde ate tuba tuyitiddwa tetujja nga tuzenga bakiyeta nomuli okujja awantu bonna onatulowooza nti nava from nowhere nabeetandika okuba tuba tulina appointment nga batuyisa okubaleka nga appointment so ekitongole byonna ebikwata ku nsonga yakulemanga ensonga nga zino ez'obwamulire nga tukuza olunaku lwamulire olw'ensi yonna musitukiremu nnyo okulabika nga munnamawulire afuna okunkanya tulina challenges okusomozebwa kungi nnyo mu field yenaddala mu field yeyo n'ebyakamu bafa akukozesa tetufuna kuyambibwa oba oliawo kulabika nga tufuna eddembe ekyo kitwandifunye nga bannamawulire
amaanyi nayekozize Robert Kisanje nga ndi munnamawulire ng'akolera ekitongole kya Vision Group mu department eyagatali ku nfuufu Bukedde TV. Ennaku z'omwezi zaali nga 28 omwezi ogw'omunaana 2024 twafuna obusiko bwe twali tugenza okupabalinga sitole waaliwo abasomesa abaali beekulukumye ku ssomero erimu erya Juniors Nursery and Primary School. Abasomesa abo baatukulira essimu nga baagala okulaga obutali ku matimu olwa dayrekita w'essomero Mr. Mugisha Didas olw'embeera gye yali some
So thank you for adhering. Oh, we shall have an opportunity to see that documentary. We're still even trying to work on the subtitles for other people to follow. But that said, I want us to move quickly to the next session of having highlights of this Press Freedom Index for 2024, or the 16th one. Robert is going to give us those highlights for the next 15 or so minutes. And then we shall have a very simple plenary. We shall reserve, again, like I said earlier, most of our inquiries or posts into this report for Tuesday. And then we shall do a very quick launch, and then I'll be releasing you. So I'll call upon Mr. Sempala to come. Those who are not holding folks, you can give him a hand clap.
Thank you very much, Dr. James Nkobi, for steering us this well. Ladies and gentlemen, you are all most welcome. My name is Robert Sempala. I am very happy that I almost know most of us in this room. Means we have built a family of press freedom. The fact that we know almost each of us here. And I'm most thrilled by the fact that we have more journalists. Many times people say journalists shun their own activities in favor of others. And now you have demystified that. It's not anything to label against you anymore, because you're here in bigger numbers than the rest of our invited guests. So thank you very much. Your Excellency, the ambassador of the Royal Danish Embassy, here represented by already our friend, Christina, who is the head of who is the head of the team at the program that we know as PESA, which is the program on accountability, civic engagement, and rights, PESA, hosted by the Danish Embassy in Kampala, but also co-supported by the Embassy of Sweden in Kampala, the Irish Embassy in Kampala, and the Kingdom of the Royal, the Royal Netherlands Embassy. Yes, I think I got that very right. Thank you indeed very much. I know protocol is extremely a delicate thing for all of us here. I want to recognize the representatives of the different embassies. Mary Abdallah from the French Embassy. She's right there at the back. You're most welcome. The French Embassy is one of the embassies that really supports us in our work, so we're privileged to have you around. Indy, is it Daxon? Yes, from the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. You're very welcome. A team that I support globally when it comes to world football. Apart from Ugandan teams, then I go to Netherlands, then I go to France, I go to Denmark. And so the flow goes. Yeah. Then His Excellency Koi Hejo, the Deputy Chief of Mission, Embassy of the Republic of Korea, just outside on an urgent call. You're very welcome. We recognize your presence. All of us, our colleagues, Viola Joke, I think from the American Bar Association, colleagues from CCG, WUMA, Laspnet, Civil Source Malcolm, one of the people that have supported our work since time immemorial. Thank you very much. We're honored to have you around. URN, Sam Guma, contributed so much to the media. The Editors Guild, Sylvia Nancha, my best friend for many over 20 years. We have a lot in common with Sylvia since 1994. So we've grown up together every reason for you to clap for us that we're still friends and living. My board chair, Madame Margaret Sekaja, chairs the board of National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders, but also the executive director of the Human Rights Center Uganda. You're very welcome. She's about to pass on the mantle to her deputy, and her deputy happens to be the one speaking. It's not a campaign in any way. It's not a campaign, but she whispers to me one time, and I'm thinking about it. I didn't accept my decline. We're very welcome, Madam Margaret Sekaja. J.B. Waswa, who is lectured almost every media practitioner in this country, nationally, regionally, globally. JB, thank you for having your time for us here. Here are our colleagues, WUSPA, the people in sports, WUPA, Afik, Gilbert Sendugwa, hosted us together with UNESCO to a very wonderful discussion with the security forces. It was a dialogue and training. It was really amazing. We think that I will not see brutality shape out come 2026 because of that engagement that we had. Thank you so much. I also want to recognize the colleagues from Development Law Advocates, Jean Namoga and Deize. Please stand up for recognition. You realize that these are the people who we work closely with to develop this report. They paid they pay attention to detail and everything. Thank you so much for being here. I think the list is really endless, but I want to lastly recognize my team, headed by the board chairperson, Mr. Julius Esegu, and Jenny Watango, who I've also known since time immemorial. We went to the same school together. Thank you so much. And the staff of HRNJ, right at the back. Please all wave to us, the staff of HRNJ, Emma Magambo, Diana, Michael Kasozi in finance, Ronald, our transport officer, everyone that is there, Deo Walusimbi, our special rapporteur, all of you guys, we are all very grateful to you for your dedication and the work you do. The Queen of Ginger, who deputizes our board chair, is right there walking in. You're very welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the launch of the 2024 Press Freedom Index, and this is the summary that I present to you. I'm sure I will have copies for you to read the details. And in this year's edition marks the 16th publication of the Press Freedom Index by the Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda. It is building upon previous reports and serving as a crucial tool in tracking and assessing media freedoms in Uganda throughout the year 2024. The process of developing the report involved addressing the following objectives. We wanted to promote credible evidence for advocacy on safety of journalists and to identify priority area and emerging media safety needs for intervention by relevant media stakeholders. We also wanted to study and analyze quantitatively the data about violations and abuses of media freedoms for the year 2024, so as to establish main trends on press freedoms by looking at the political, the social, the legal, and technological surroundings. We also wanted to identify and highlight key press freedom violations and abuses, their perpetrators as well as the victims. We also wanted to show through quantitative in-depth interviews and personal testimonies the impact of violations and abuses on journalists and the practice of journalism in Uganda. We also wanted to explore the working conditions of journalists as an emerging factor in the discourse of press freedom in Uganda. And finally, we wanted to make recommendations to relevant stakeholders on the way forward. And this report went through the different methodologies. One was a mix of mixed methods of research approach that were adopted, in which document review and analysis of secondary quantitative data were employed. I'll save you the methodologies for fairly long. but I will implore you to read these reports once we release them. But they are very thorough. But the structure of the report was organized into 4 chapters. And the first chapter provides an introduction and background to the study. It presents a broad perspective on the status of journalists, media professionals, and overall press freedom, both globally and within Uganda in 2024. Additionally, this chapter outlines the objectives, research approach, and framework of the 2024 Press Freedom Index report. Chapter 2 explores the political, economic, social, technological, and legal landscape affecting press freedom in Uganda in the year 2024. It also examines notable events and emerging developments and that influenced media operations during the year. Chapter 3 is extensively examining press freedom infringements and violations documented in Uganda throughout the year of 2024, and it further presents statistical insights on human rights abuses targeting journalists and media houses, as well as the ongoing challenges and patterns affecting journalism, the journalism profession. The fourth chapter in this report offers the final observations and recommendations aimed at enhancing press freedom and protecting media rights in Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, the violations and abuses of rights and freedom of the press in Uganda. The 2024 Press Freedom Index report is titled, "One Step Forward, 2 Steps Backward, a Slippery Media Landscape." We make 1 step forward, and then we go back 2 steps, meaning we are retrogressing. And the terrain is so slippery for the practitioners. This is the title of the report. The report brings out a comprehensive overview of the status of press freedom violations and abuses in Uganda during the year 2024. It also represents data on human rights abuses targeting journalists and media practitioners in the country. In the year 2024, the Human Rights Network of Journalists Uganda documented a total of 110 incidents involving human rights violations and abuses targeting journalists, media professionals, media institutions, and the figure reflects a decline of 12 cases compared to the 122 that we reported about in 2023. However, it marks an increase of 16 cases from the 94 cases or incidents that we recorded in 2022. And when we review this in a broader context, the 2024 tally shows a notable reduction of 21 cases from the 131 reported in 2021. We are giving you a perspective or a pattern of how things have been faring in the country, and which is a significant drop of 64 cases from the peak of the 174 instances that we recorded in 2020. These fluctuations highlight both progress and persistent challenges in ensuring the safety and rights of media practitioners in Uganda over the past 5 years. And these are the nature and number of human rights abuses and violations that were reported in 2024. The leading perpetrator of violence against journalists in 2024, the nature of the incidents were blocked or denied access to news scenes, and this contributed to a figure of 52 cases, followed by assault on journalists. Journalists were beaten to a tune of 25 cases, and then damaging their equipment contributed to 11 cases. The arrests on journalists in the line of duty contributed to 7 cases, and those that were charged in courts of law were 5. Those that were directly intimidated by different sources were 3. Those that were threatened, like threats to their lives, were 3. And those that had their footage deleted were 2. Those that had their gadgets stolen away from them permanently were 2, and this gives us a total of 110 incidents of abuses and violations in the reporting year. When you go down to break down these incidents, especially about blocked or denied access, the incidents involving blocked access or denied access recorded the highest number of press freedom violations, totaling to 52 cases. This marked a significant increase compared to the previous years, which saw cases of 47 in 2023, 10 in 2022, 8 in 2021, and 40 in 2020, then 44 in 2019. This one we have spanned it to 6 years to have a better perspective. And then when we go to assaults, we had 25 cases of assaults against journalists which were reported and documented by HRNJ. This marked an increase of 10 cases compared to 15 that were reported in 2023. However, it represented a decline from figures that were reported between 2019 and 2022. Then we went to damaging of equipment. A total of 11 cases involving the damage of journalist equipment were reported and documented. This was a notable drop from the 15 cases that were reported in 2022. However, it represented a slight increase compared to the 8 cases that were reported in 2023 and 2022 respectively. Ladies and gentlemen, we went to the arrests, journalists being arrested in the line of duty. In contrast to the previous 3 years, where arrests ranked as the second most common violation, in 2024, arrests dropped to the 4th highest category, with only 7 cases reported. This marks a significant decline from 25 cases in 2023 and 22 in 2022. There were 26 in 2021 and 11 in 2020, where we had 14 cases of arrest in 2019. The other violations that we can talk about here included journalists that were intimidated in Guru, those were 2. Journalists that had direct threats to their lives, those were 3, like I said, among other violations, as will be detailed in the report. But also the UPDF was implicated in handing out direct intimidation to a media house in Namuwongo. Then we go down to the category of victims of violations and abuses. In 2024, a total of 84 journalists were recorded as victims of various violations and abuses. Of these, 70 were reporters who directly experienced incidents in the line of duty. This reflects a slight increase of 5 cases compared to the 65 that were reported in 2022. However, it marks a decrease of 4 from the 74 victims of 2023 and 35 from 2021. In terms of percentage of the targets, we saw that media houses were the most targeted, television stations were the most targeted media houses, to a tune of 50% of the attacks were aimed at radio televisions. And then radios had a percentage of 27.2%, print had a percentage of 9%, and online had a percentage of 6.3% of the attacks. Then we come to the perpetrators, who I'm very sure all of us are interested in knowing, possibly asking also the questions, what will be done to the perpetrators? In the year 2024, the key perpetrators of press freedom violations included the Uganda Police Force, as always, I must say, the UPDF, the military police, the Joint Anti-Terrorism Task Force, which is JAT, members of the community, and private guards, among others. And the Uganda Police Force remained the leading perpetrator of press freedom violations, accounting for 38 of the 110 incidents. These cases are extensively detailed in the report. You read them. Well, this figure reflects a slight decline compared to the previous 5 years of 35 in 2023, 45 in 2022, 83 in 2021, and 104 in 2020, and then 101 in 2019. The Uganda Police Force still is registered as the highest leading perpetrator of violence against journalists in the country. And these are followed by still men in uniform, the UPDF. Uganda People's Defense Forces, the People's Forces, are second in terms of violating the rights of journalists, on the other hand. And they have seen a significant decline, however, over the last 6 years. Because in 2024, we registered one case of intimidation involving a UPDF officer who was recorded as discussed in the chapters in this book. And this marked a continued downward trend from previous years. 2 in 2023, 11 in 2022, and 25 in 2021. Then we had also violations, abuses coming from with the communities and individual members, and these accounted for 21 violations and abuses against journalists, which were committed by private individuals, including bodyguards, town agents, and gangs. This marked a slight increase compared to the previous years, where we saw 18 cases in 2023, 6 cases in 2022, 6 cases in 2021, 7 in 2020, and 6 in 2019. Then here came JAT, the Joint Anti-Terrorism Task Force. This is a new category of perpetrators, which is also prone to violations of press freedom in 2024. A total of 13 cases of violations and abuses were recorded against JAT. These ones also participated in blocking or denying access to journalists to cover press conferences that were scheduled at NUP and other places. They also were seen beating some journalists. Then we had individual leaders from elsewhere who accounted for 6 violations against journalists. The details will be coming to you in the report. We also had the military police, which the report says that unlike in 2023, when 18 press freedom violations were attributed to the military police, only 2 such incidents were reported in 2024, meaning there is a tremendous improvement from 18 to 2 cases. So somehow the military is trying to behave. Then we also had unknown perpetrators. These ones had to be identified by the victims. And such cases contributed to 28 cases, which were attributed to unidentified individuals. Among them were persons described as plainclothes men representing or engaging like security officers. We could not know where they're coming from. We could not know whether they were acting for and on behalf of the forces, so it was very hard to really know who they were. We couldn't identify them. Then these violations all had gender perspectives, ladies and gentlemen. In terms of the gender, in 2024, a total of 15 female journalists were subjected to violations and abuses by various perpetrators. The violations included physical assault and denial of access to news coverage. Compared to previous years, in 2023, we registered 14 violations, and 16 in 2022, and 2019, we had 10 in 2021, and 19 in 2020. So in here, we see that female journalists are not safe while in the line of duty. Something has to be done against protecting the colleagues out in the field. Then we also had physical locations for these violations. The locations or where these incidents happened, the 110 violations and abuses happened in different spaces, say cities and districts. Kampala reported the highest number with 70 cases, followed by the district of Wakiso with 12 cases. Gulu and Rengo each recorded 5 cases, while Mpiji and Buyikwe registered 4 cases each. Arua and Chenjojo reported 3 cases each. Kabale, Buhweju, Mubende, and Oyam each documented a single violation against a journalist. And at the regional level, the central region saw the overwhelming majority of incidents that happened to journalists with 96 cases, the central region. And this was followed by the northern region with 6, the western region with 5, and West Nile region with 3. Notably, the eastern region reported no press freedom violations in 2024. I think there are some cases that were not privy to because we've heard from some journalists crying out for their rights. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we are going to compare cases that happened or sum up cases that happened over a record 5 years, where we had 174 cases in 2020, where we had 131 in 2021, we had 94 in 2022, we had 122 in 2023, and now we have 110 in 2024, and this gives us a total of 631 cases of abuse and violation against journalists. So you just know that the center can't hold all is not well if registering all this number of cases. So as Uganda approaches a critical political juncture, the state of press freedom remains very precarious. Without meaningful reforms, protection for journalists, and accountability for violators, the media's role as a pillar of democracy is at serious risk. Urgent action is needed to safeguard press freedom, ensure journalist safety, and uphold the constitutional rights of the Fourth Estate. The 2024 Press Freedom Index makes some recommendations to the various key actors, and these actors need to really come up and help out where the call goes to them. We have various recommendations to the government of Uganda, where we invite the government to establish an institutional framework to enforce and protect the rights of journalists and promote press freedom. In line with the Constitution and international human rights statutes, to ensure that journalists operate without fear of censorship, harassment, or violence. We also want to invite government to conduct a comprehensive review of the existing laws and regulations that affect journalism to phase out any provisions that criminalize legitimate journalistic activities or work or facilitate censorship. New legal protections should be introduced to explicitly safeguard press freedom, protect journalistic sources, and ensure compliance with the international human rights standards for the protection of journalists. We also feel that government should establish an independent media rights commission, which is mandated to monitor violations against journalists and investigate complaints and violations occasioned by the state actors. The commission should be, in our estimation, should include representatives from the media sector, legal professionals, civil society, and human rights organizations, among others. The commission should also develop and operationalize a national journalistic or journalist protection mechanism to ensure timely and effective responses to threats faced by journalists in the country.
We have a couple of recommendations for government. Some you will find in the detailed report, but we also have recommendations to the Parliament of Uganda, where we would invite it to establish a media access protocol through the Parliamentary Forum on the Media to balance institutional security and order with the media's right to report. And this, we think, that will reduce arbitrary restrictions which and therefore promote transparency and ensure that journalists access public proceedings without any fear or interference. We also think that government should take lead in ensuring the development of a national artificial intelligence policy that outlines ethical standards for developing and using artificial intelligence technologies. We also would like Parliament to utilize the developed national AI policy as a fundamental framework to inform and guide the creation of related legislation governing AI technologies that is consistent, enforceable, and aligned with the ethical principles of journalism. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a couple of recommendations to media houses, and we think these are very important as well, especially print media, which should transition from low-performing newspapers and magazines to bookazines. I think you know those bookazines. By adopting hybrid format that blends in-depth, high-quality content of books with the visual appeal and periodic publishing model of magazines. This one, I think we will have in-depth discussions with a team there to really appreciate where we're coming from. The print media also should repackage its content into premium, specialized, and interactive formats that will differentiate itself from social media's fast-moving content cycles. I'm sure most of these recommendations should come into the report itself to you, and each of us will get a copy of the report here. And we have recommendations to the judiciary. The judiciary is a key custodian of press freedom. We would like the judiciary to develop and adopt a media access policy for courts, which clearly outlines clear procedures and criteria for journalist access to proceedings. The policy should provide for the use of court-issued press passes or accreditation for journalists who have undergone media orientation and training programs on court reporting, ethics, and contempt rules to ensure that there is orderly access while maintaining the sanctity of the courts. We'd also enjoin the judiciary to designate media liaison officers within the judiciary to facilitate communication and coordinate media coverage, logistics, and needs. Finally, with the judiciary is to provide media orientation and training programs on court reporting, ethics, and build a professional judiciary-press relationship. And this is very key because there's a lot of misrepresentation of court matters by many people that go to report court. Then to our colleagues from the civil society, where we equally come from, one is to explore grant-funded investigative journalism projects to provide alternative sources of income for journalists by partnering with international donors and journalism-focused foundations to unlock funding for reporting on critical issues such as governance and human rights. We'd also like to create an investigative journalism fellowship for grant schemes. Some of our colleagues already do that, but we think we can do it even more to benefit the wider media spectrum in the country. There are lots of recommendations for the civil society, and we'll all find them in the report. I just gave you a snapshot of what we have. And ladies and gentlemen, we would like to call for conducting a survey on how journalists are paid in this country by the regulators and the different authorities. Journalists come out as the least paid professionals, and this makes them susceptible to being compromised. Also working under very severe and pathetic situations, despite the high risk that characterize their work. Then we have the journalists associations and unions. One is to encourage and support freelance journalists a lot, train journalists on risk assessment, conflict reporting, and digital security. Finally, to our development partners. We would invite the development partners, I see some of us here with us, to support capacitation of journalists, to support access to justice for the journalists, and to offer more incentives and fellowships to journalists to advance their careers in a more professional manner. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a brief summary of the report, to which all of you will have a copy. My colleague from the Uganda Human Rights Commission, certainly a copy awaits you, and everyone here before you leave. Thank you so much for the kind attention.
Thank you very much, Robert. I had promised to release you earlier, but I'm also informed that traffic had been cut off because the president was passing. They have just released it now. So either way, you are not going to go. So here we are now. If you give me an extra 10 minutes, you can now go freely without blocking. So we welcome you, Robert. Thank you for the sneak peek that we have had. And like I said earlier, that this discourse will reign higher and more in-depth next Tuesday. I was intrigued by the recommendation to civil society to create and fund a rapid response legal unit with a dedicated legal aid structure to provide journalists with access to timely, affordable, and professional legal support. And of course, Robert, you know I lead an army of 157 lawyers, astute. Maybe when you're ready, you can come and we talk on this matter, particularly, especially the period where we are going to. We want to thank you for also the disaggregated information in relation to statistics. We want to thank you for giving us a sneak peek in terms of years to gather the patterns and trends. But also we want to thank you for the succinctness and the divisions of recommendations to the various power holders. We think we can put this to test on Tuesday. I want us to move to the second last part of this session. I'm giving 2 minutes to people who want to say something. There's a mic, Morgan from Texas. There's a mic there to Viola. Viola, you are welcome. Viola is a country director, country rep for American Bar Association. I've also been with HRNJ for quite some time. You're welcome, Viola.
Yes, good morning. I was looking into this room for the last 4 or 5 years when I've been attending the launches of this report from way back when I was in the legal aid sector. Just 2 comments. One, just on the rapid response. As James, you'll know, NetPil has a very good rapid response unit, but from my experience, many journalists don't like to pursue cases to their conclusion. I don't know, and that is something, I don't know what the solution is, but many times that lawyers have been offered, they would rather settle out of court and get it over and done with because of how long the court cases take. But the second was on the recommendation that was intriguing. As you know, James, we had supported NetPil on filing that public interest case on UCC, creating, not even creating, but okay, that's
operationalizing.
The one. Exactly.
Yeah.
They're trying, you know, exactly. Because if you make a recommendation now to create something new, it will take away a lot of time. And I think UCC had agreed. I don't know, James, you can update us on how far that case is, but in principle, the AG had agreed and UCC had agreed. I don't know how far that had happened. I think working through those structures is important. But I also think that the journalists need to reflect on how to do work in a fragile state. Because Uganda, for me, I consider it a fragile state. We cannot do work as if we live in New York, or we live in Brussels, or we live in London.
Or Kigali.
Or Kigali, yes. Okay, let me say Harare or Johannesburg. That is closer to our jurisdiction. The reality is that our context has changed. Yeah. It is always changing, and things are becoming more precarious. So it is to reflect how you do work in a fragile state and where things are not obvious. And we should now try and move away from the usual, how do we create resilience, adapting measures in a fragile state? And that is the reality that we are in. We cannot bury our heads in the sand and think we are operating in Joburg, but we are in a fragile state. And that is the reality. So we need to rethink some of these recommendations, even the journalists. And that's why I remember one time Defender sent me a consultant on preparing for the 2016 elections. And I gave them a grim picture 2 years ago. I am shocked that what I said, the consultant lost energy, but I told her that is the way the country is going. But I am also surprised that it's even worse than I gave them the recommendations. So it's time for us to reflect in that area. Yes, we can plan for best scenario, but also in life we must plan for the worst case scenario. Because the reality is things are getting difficult, and a lot of our senior journalists, and I think one recommendation I told them then is that why do you think most of the senior journalists have left the profession? Yeah. You see, if you compare to those who covered the 2016, those who covered 2021, all of those people are not in the media houses. So you have young people or new people who have not operated in that context yet. And this might be their first election when they will be at the front line. It's also something to think about, because a lot of them get fatigued, get burnt out by everything that has happened. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Vela. I'll take two other extras. Oh, yes, Ms. Margaret, and then Gilbert.
Thank you very much for that report. Just a few observations. We had a law passed on the Prevention and Prohibition of Torture Act, and that law provided for personal liability. Yes. We have not heard whether we are taking advantage of that particular law, because most of the people who are violated, the individuals sometimes are known, as Robert told us. So we need to get those cases out and publicize them so that they can scare off the would-be violators. The other aspect is that, Robert, I don't know how much we utilize the UN mechanisms and the African Commission. How to utilize those mechanisms? Many times, for example, the UN has special rapporteurs who can bring up issues. They issue communications, urgent appeals, they come for country visits, and all those are pressure on the government to minimize the violations. But we've not heard whether the special rapporteurs even got interested in the recent violations which took place. We don't hear whether they have any reports or communications they've made on Uganda, on the way journalists are being treated. So can we work together and see how we can utilize the African Commission and the UN mechanisms as a sort of pressure on the government? The other issue was on law enforcement, personal liability, and the way we can hold these law enforcers personally liable is to really follow up. But I didn't hear any statistics on whether we've had some cases in the courts against them, the people who are being held personally liable for torturing, for battering, for all those abuses. Can we have some statistics also on those? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Sekaja. Gilbert also had something to say. Ronnie, Gilbert is here. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and congratulations, Robert and team, on this good report. My comments are in relation to following up on these recommendations so that we see actions following these. I see, of course, Parliament is one of the institutions that are mentioned adversely in this report. But I think it would be good to request Parliament to discuss this report and make observations and recommendations and actions, at least formally. Secondly, a number of institutions, like the Uganda Police, have procedures. They have a human rights policy. They have disciplinary courts. And yet we see consistently coming on the top. Are these mechanisms working? What subjects do they deal with? So I think we should test them, report complaints, and follow up. We can also make information requests on any cases that they have handled to address these challenges that are consistently coming up. Yeah. Also, I had written engaging regional and international mechanisms, and in one of the incidents, actually, we have worked with HRNJ to file complaints to UN special procedures. There was a follow-up communication, and we saw the state, they acted specifically on that issue. There are also other communications that we mobilized after widespread violence. They also followed up with communications. We thought that the impact would have been greater with media coverage of those communications and expressions of concerns. But unfortunately, the media houses we engaged, for one reason or the other, they did not report on those concerns and communications by UN special procedures. But I agree that they are effective spaces to add additional pressure and call for attention. The other one also in the report is that I think media owners have a major role to play in addressing some of these challenges. They have influence, but also control on what happens inside and influence on what happens outside. So I think, discussing with them this report specifically and encouraging them to prioritize safety of media workers over money and political interests may be of value. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Gilbert. I'll take another comment from Comrade Chirenga. Gilbert, did you sabotage the vote? I think it's a. Can we get another mic? I mean, as they get us one, we.
Whether or not it's being implemented. Really, there are enough safeguards to protect journalists. The question is whether we have the will, especially the political will, to protect journalists. So these are a few of my recommendations in my view. One relates to what my supervisor, Mrs. Margaret Secretary, talked about, personal liability. Can HRNJ take on the matter of private prosecution? And then when you're going to do private prosecution, before you embark on it, please have a discussion with the DPP so that you have a common understanding such that she doesn't reach midway and takes over. And you know what it means when she takes over the president. Please have that. Now, in as far as the survey on conditions of service, the answer is already known. Don't waste your resources. They are the least paid. The best we can do now is that we should encourage journalists to strike, learn how to strike. Lay down your tools. Be bold enough. The question is, will you survive for the next 3 days? Yes, you will. What will you do? You create a strike fund. Let every journalist every month contribute to a strike fund. The day you wake up and say enough is enough, and you lay down your tools for a week, the media owners may listen. But for now, I doubt whether they will do something about that. So please learn to strike also, and lay down your tools. Someone will listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chirenga. I'll hear Badru, and then I'll come down to first Badru. On private prosecution, I think, Robert, you'll have to speak to us. You remember that we launched private prosecution with Kaihura, the Kaihura prosecution. You remember it? Currently, we have around 16 running against military officers and police. It's a very interesting terrain, like Chirenga says, but it could deliver something, actually, like we have seen. Private prosecution, a very interesting recommendation. I'll hear from LASPNet.
Yes,
Pedro,
thank you so much, Robert, for the detailed report. Mine was, I'm just curious to appreciate whether the report interrogates the internal violations and abuses faced by journalists, especially in the media houses where they work. I think until recently we've had instances of sexual abuses where female journalists are actually targeted by different actors within these media houses. Yes. And issues of contracts are also still challenging, at least almost on a daily. You will hear journalists striking, you will hear journalists actually complaining that they've not been remunerated, and of course the harsh working conditions as to whether the report is comprehensive enough to cover all those other aspects. Thank you.
Lastly?
Thank you. Thank you, Robert, the team, for this report. I would like just inquire whether some of these players that affect Okay, thank you. Now, I just wanted, you made a recommendation for the civil society on how they can support, but I wonder whether you have envisioned the funding trajectory that's happening for media support and media development, and its implications on the safety for journalists, because it's not as straightforward as it used to be, to make sure that we have either funding and support for journalists. What are the possible locally contextualized sustainability measures that we can really reflect on to support journalists with or without donor support? I think that's very critical. A second thing is to inquire whether you have considered the implications of the absence of a minimum wage on the safety and the confidence of journalists. We've just been told to go and make a strike, but then you understand that it's not as straightforward as it appears to be. And then finally, when we say that the community, members of the community are perpetrators, it would be nice to know at least the categories if they're there, so that journalists are more aware about who in the communities they should be wary of, or who they should go actually to target for media literacy. And it would also be nice to see the place of media ownership in actually being a perpetrator of violence against journalists and journalism. I thank you.
Thank you very much for the comments. I just have some bad news that has just reached me. Not good news. We were supposed to stop in the next 5 minutes, but I'm told the cousin of the nephew of the wife, married to the brother of one of the sisters of the president, is passing, so that blocked the road again. So 5 minutes just, and then we can roll. So Robert, you're going to come, and you answer to that. You want to go back, we shall head direct to the launch. I'll give you some 3 minutes, such that in the 5 minutes after the traffic is unblocked, we can leave.
Thank you indeed very much for the feedback. Some of the questions were suggestive in nature, so they are for internal consideration as the team at the HRNJ. So we take those ones and we'll act upon them. There were guidances. Others were direct questions which can be answered now, others will be answered later. Like Afik Gilbert has said, we'll interface together with Margaret on the UN procedures and special mechanisms on how to utilize them to best amplify these voices. We really have worked with Afik before, but I think we will need to do more in this regard. Someone has asked me about the anti-torture laws. Yeah, certainly. These are the laws that we can use to hold perpetrators personally liable, but we have a challenge of identity in most of these cases where you cannot be able to identify the perpetrator because either they are masked or they are unknown to you, given the way they are dressed, they are whisked away, they have no name tags. So it's really very pathetic operating in such an environment. Maybe if we could pressure bear on the authorities to make sure that each of the forces that man public order can be easily identified. I think that can be our preoccupation. Maybe in those meetings that we normally hold with the Ministry of Internal Affairs and others to make that a key point. Otherwise, it's a very important remit that we can use to hold individual perpetrators accountable. We have used them before, and we have a DPC that was convicted and sentenced for assaulting a journalist, Andrew Rwanga. We also saw a case of Murungi and Henry Sekanjako, where they went to court. You remember that ugly incident at the UN offices where the military descended on journalists and beat them. They had a victory in court to all our advantage, and they were awarded 75 million shillings reward. We don't know whether they are about to receive that, because there is one that we won. Remember that time of the Commonwealth when the special constables beat up two journalists, Timothy Bassi and Francis Tumekwasizi in Nambole. Went to court and won a case. So they were all awarded 15 million each, but many years have gone down the road. They have never received the money. Most of them have left direct journalism practice. So there's a lot that has to be considered while we're working on the issues, given the context that we're operating in. Then Robert Chilenga, you affirm that we have the necessary laws, but the implementation is lacking and the political will. I am sure many of you in the room will agree with you. The political will has to be provoked. Maybe you have to devise means of how to provoke the political will to our advantage, because many times cases gather a lot of dust, not only for journalists, but many cases of many other people. So while we talk about our own cases, we should also be mindful of the other cases that are gathering dust in those temples of justice. Then the media owners are a missing link in most of these things. Certainly, these have to be also provoked to come into action to, shape up. But we are very happy that recently when there was a thorough beating of journalists in Kawempe, they all came out and said we have to collectively take action, which we did by slapping a blackout on the activities of the security forces. It's one of those rare cases where we have seen them actively come out together with the editors and press associations, human rights bodies, parliament, and everyone else. So I think we'll be provoked enough for them to come out from their safer spaces to be with us, but we'll continue engaging them. The leader of the owners, Dr. Vincent Dahawe, is a progressive mind person. I think we'll engage them to make sure that they are with us. One, mostly they fear for their businesses. Most of the owners have political inclinations, and they fear to stand out, to speak out. So the workload is well cut out, but a bit heavier for anyone who's going to bring them to the spaces that we're in and speak freely. But it's something that we can continuously do. Then, Badru, thank you. You have touched the internal abuses. There are many internal abuses in media houses. The practitioners will tell you. Many of them will operate without valid contracts. Many of them without work IDs. Many of them will not be paid for some time. And that is, there is something in this report that touches that. And when we have a detailed discussion on the findings on Tuesday next week, certainly it's one of the areas that we'll have to give a lot of our attention. But also, we really want to invite journalists to progressively come out and speak about these ones. Because you have 10 people that are victimized and only one of them can stand to say, I'm sacrificing myself. We have gotten so many cases of that nature. The next day, someone calls you to say, please don't mention my name. You just say we are demanding for our salaries. Say, but we need evidence. Say, no, you just say we are demanding for 6 months. So I think it's a concern for all of us, but we will continuously handle this. Then my good friend from the Media Focus Africa, Juang, civil societies can support with the little resources that we have. And we did already supporting, yeah? But in the event that the donor money completely gets finished, what do we do? I'm sure it's a bridge that we are crossing every day internally. Each of us is teasing out possibilities of operating without our development partners giving us the money. But also, I'm sure they're not about to give up. I don't know if, I can't put a donor to task to say if they're about to give up. But if I was able to, they would say we are not about to give up. Because the work that we are doing together is a noble job. It all pushes in the right direction of democratization. And they want us better. They want human rights respected in this country. We all, I think, are in the same boat because no one is a winner in that boat. So we still implore the donors, our development partners, to find it in their budgets always to support this work, unless they want us to all sink. And if they choose to do that, we'll go down. As I end, the implications of the absence of a minimum wage. Last year, we discussed findings of this report. And one of the spokespersons of government, Mr. Ofono Pondo, assured us that the president was not about to institute a minimum wage then in the next 6 years, according to his information. He said he would not. 2, he said, what is it? What if he puts it at 10,000 shillings? Mutwalo gumu, the minimum. Will it be beneficial enough? So his was that we bear pressure on those that get the money, have the money, those that employ us, yeah, to even act in the absence of the minimum wage. You know, I think it's work that we can do with the owners, engage them more and see if something better can come up. And finally, individual cases are being taken up by the DPP. We certainly will have discussions with the DPP to give us assurances that will not take up cases. And that assurance is not total, though. Where they have taken up cases, they have collapsed. So it's very prudent that we toe that line, and certainly we'll do it. Journalists, please, Madam Ajok made a call to you to pursue cases to their logical conclusions. Good enough, we are all here in the room. Some of us have stood the heat and gone to court and hanged in there to the logical conclusion. But that is the smallest percentage of us, yeah? Because the perpetrators are armed sometimes with a lot of money, and it's very inviting for you to be tempted. So this can be a wake-up call to all of us to pursue judicial justice logically for the benefit of the industry. Yeah? Even when we have those temptations, let's say, I do not need money, I need you in the dock, we need to settle it in the dock. And that will be a deterrent to many people that attack journalists and get away with it because they have a lot of money. Thank you very much. For the other questions, I'll be passing by and speaking to each of us to make sure that we answer them. Just, or on Tuesday, please on Tuesday, make sure when we invite you, we come and we'll have a whole time just to discuss the findings and apportioning them to the respective mandate owners. We'll do that on Tuesday. So please keep your phones on. We'll be calling you. We'll be sending you emails. We'll be inviting you through all the means that we can. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. And as we come to a close, again, we want to thank you for being with us. Of course, the aspect Robert talks about, which is now our biggest problem, of people who are hooded, and then you can't identify them. I think a week ago we had a conversation with the Kenyan Law Society. You know, they have scored in this area with the lawyers who have done some work on that. And if all goes well, next week we shall be filing to the High Court with a view of trying to stop these hooded security agents. Some of us here who are of intelligence, please make that report and send it back that we are coming. We move to the last part of our function. This is when we launch our 16th edition of the Human Rights Network for Journalists. That is the annual Press Freedom Index report, 16th edition. I am going to request the team at HRNJ to come and Diana, if you could just come, and Ronald, and Emma. If we can have this piece here, please. And then I'm going to invite this entire table, led by the chairperson. Please guide our visitors to come and we launch. Yeah, this is how revolutions are born. You know, you speak to each other like this before you know it, there's a coup. So what we are going to do, not to waste time, I'm going to ask Robert to come and invite our guests to make a few remarks. Then immediately after the remarks, we launch, and then we just roll back to offices, probably in time for lunch at our offices. So Rob.
Thank you very much. Some people will say the shoes are too big for me to invite a very high-profile, prominent person, but me, I will use the powers conveyed to me by all of you in this room. By James, it says by James, to use the singular honor to invite our chief guest, from the Royal Danish Embassy, and this is our friend, Kerstin Sutton, to come and make her remarks and later launch the report.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, James. Representative from civil society, the media, the academia, and the journalists here today, fellow development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and many, many friends in this room. It's nice to come to a room where you feel there's a lot of good friends. On behalf of the Royal Danish Embassy and on behalf of the Danish Ambassador, I'm honored to join you here today for the launch of the 16th edition of the annual Press Freedom Index report, an important initiative by the Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda. Allow me to extend a sincere appreciation to HRNJ, a respected partner of the Danish Embassy, for their continued leadership in monitoring, advocating for media rights and freedom. I also want to thank our fellow diplomatic partners, the embassies of Ireland, Netherlands, and Sweden, for their strong commitment to press freedom in Uganda. And Robert, we are not about to give up. We are not letting go. As we prepare to mark the World Press Freedom Day tomorrow on the 3rd of May, I wish to pay a special tribute to all journalists across Uganda. Your courage and resilience and unwavering dedication to truth, often in the face of harassment, intimidation, censorship, and personal risk. We've heard about 110 incidents last year. That is certainly personal risk. That makes you deserve our highest respect. You are the stewards of public accountability, the watchdogs of democracy, and the voice of the voiceless. The title of this year's report, One Step Forward, Two Steps Back, A Slippery Media Landscape, is both telling and timely. It captures the complex and often contradictory environment in which Ugandan journalists operate. Progress in some areas is being undermined by growing threats in others. This report is more than a document. It's a call to action. It urges us to remain vigilant, to defend media independence, and to uphold the right to free expression as a cornerstone of democratic society. We must all recognize the evolving nature of journalism. Technology has opened new frontiers. More Ugandans today have access to information than ever before, and citizen journalism is playing a growing role in shaping public narratives. However, at the same time, digital tools that empower can also harm. The rise of disinformation, online harassment, and hate speech is real and a growing challenge. We've heard today also it may be especially for women. As noted in the report, there's an urgent need for frameworks that protect both press freedom and public trust. Progress in the justice, law and order sector is promising, particularly around mechanisms for access to justice for journalists. Strengthening the formal justice system to handle media-related violations is vital. Denmark's development cooperation strategy places democracy and human rights at its core, which is also why I'm here today. We believe that a free and independent press is not only a human right, but also a vital pillar of democracy. It ensures accountability. I would have wished that the government was here today to hear a lot of this. And I also heard what was highlighted by Robert. One was the development of a national AI policy and legal framework to guide ethical use of artificial intelligence in journalism and public information. Another, the establishment and enforcement of a media access protocol to reduce arbitrary restrictions and ensure that journalists can access public proceedings safely and without interference. As Uganda moves towards elections, the need for a vibrant, independent and protected media landscape cannot be overstated. We strongly believe that journalists should not be viewed as rivals, they should not be viewed as enemies, but rather as essential partners in national development. Their work helps build an informed, engaged and resilient citizenry. Today, as we officially launch the 2024 Press Freedom Index report, the Danish Embassy reaffirms Denmark's unwavering commitment to promoting and protecting human rights, especially the right to freedom of expression. We believe that open and constructive dialogue between state and non-state actors, including the media, is essential for inclusive governance and democratic resilience. Let us work together to ensure that Uganda remains a place where freedom of the press is not only protected, but actively encouraged. With that, I now take a great honor in launching the 16th edition of the annual Press Freedom Index Report for 2024. Congratulations and thank you. Yes?
Emma? Julius, how we pulling this thing?
So now we're going to release the report to all of us. And the report has 3 legs as you can see. But it has to be carried, despite being 3-legged. And while there, we are going to append signatures. I invite the table that Castin has sat to all come and have a turn at yeah, we're going to now launch this report. James, you have to be this way. May I be that way? Yes. JB, please join us.
Yeah. So that group already there. I'm also going to invite the Editors Guild representative. Kindly join us. Where is Irumba? Comrade Irumba, please also join us. I'm also inviting one of the journalists, Solomon Lubambula. I'm sorry, I just came in today morning. So Lubambula, is it? Lubambula. And then Barbara, kindly join us. Then I'm going to kindly give all of them copies. Let me also invite the person who has been our lead researcher on this, Namuga. Miss Namuga, kindly come join us. Michael, can we have the... So since I don't have a Caesar, and just like people went to the bush with only 27 guns, I'm going to invite that we launch by signature. Is someone bringing one quickly? Rosemary, where are you? You're joining us from the Uganda Human Rights Commission. Oh, Mr. Seru Chacha. Church. Robert Chirenga is hiding. Kindly join us. Comrade Church. Just give Church a copy. Church. There. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to ask that I'll count from 1 to... I think the only people who are remaining are our bosses, members of the board who are remaining, who are seated. Are you there? Members of the board, apart from Comrade Julius, who we have already? Okay, if they're not here. Oh, yes, please. The board members, otherwise, after this, we may have a firing. Kindly join us. Wow, you look at the cameras, we look like singing things now. Yes, so I'm just going to request that Cousin just cuts, and then that is in 3, 1, 2, 3. Yes, thank you very much. Then I'll request whoever has a marker, you sign on the marker. Using a marker, anything of your wish, a comment or so. And that is the launch of the report, Press Freedom Index Report 2024, titled One Step Forward, Two Steps Back, a Slippery Media Landscape. When you look at the graphic presentation there, you can see the media trying to go up and reach the promised land of the press freedom. But along the way are so many hurdles that we think we can find solutions to on Tuesday. So I'll have everyone sign, and then after that we shall do one photograph with all our copies. And then I'll just have us do one single line and take a picture with our copies in front of us. Then I kindly make sure everyone has a copy of the people who are in front here. JB, if you're done, we'll just come and take a line here. Robert, if you're done, please just come here. Malcolm, if you're done, Church, just come and we take a bit here. There are copies for the board members. Diana, 2 of them, please. Ronnie, could you remove that thing, push it a bit to the other side, please? And they create space. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Oh.
Church, you never forgot your menial jobs. I can see you have come down. We appreciate your humility. Raymond, NTV, if you're here. Do you want to join us? Yes, just a pic. Ronald, this thing here is killing our photos. Yeah, so I'll take one last photograph for all of them, only one. And then I'll release them. Okay. I want to thank you very much. Very, very much. This brings us to the end of the function. This report is now on the website of HRNJ. For those who wish to have copies, those who wish to have a one-on-one with Mr. Sempala on the findings or Miss Diana, they are available on call. Otherwise, we want to thank you very much for gracing us with your presence. Our development partners from the different embassies and foundations, we want to thank you. Journalists, we want to thank you. Members of civil society, we want to thank you very much. We wish you a lovely day as you go back to office to do some work. And we wish you a lovely weekend. Those who are going to the beach, have a lovely one. We hope you have the money. Some people are going to the beach, Malcolm. Those who are flying out for a weekend vacation, Nairobi, in Paris, on Cayman's Island, we wish you a nice flight as well. Those who are flying to Nyendo via drones, we also wish you a nice flight. Our service providers, the music, we thank you very much. To all people who have worked behind the scenes